The city always came alive on Friday nights, glowing with neon signs, pulsing with music, and carrying the scent of fried foods, roasted spices, and something sweet that hung in the air like a memory that refused to fade. And for Ethan Miller, Friday nights meant one thing: standing in line at Maya's Tacos More, the food truck that had slowly become the center of his world, not because of the tacos, though they were the best he had ever tested, but because of the woman who worked tirelessly behind the counter, the woman who could make strangers feel like family with nothing more than her smile, the woman who, for 3 long years, never once looked at him in a way that suggested she remembered him beyond his order of 2 chicken tacos and a lemonade. Her name was Maya, and to everyone else, she was simply the vibrant girl in the red and gold food truck, but to Ethan, she was the pulse of the market, the reason his heart beat faster on Fridays, the reason he often rehearsed conversations in the quiet of his apartment only to lose his courage when she finally stood before him, asking in her light, breezy voice, 2 tacos and lemonade, right? And he, like a fool, would only nod, mutter a soft yes, and watch her hand over his food as though he were invisible. Ethan had always been invisible, or at least that was how he felt at work, where his boss barely remembered his name, at social gatherings where he faded into corners, in the life he lived where nothing extraordinary ever seemed to happen, and yet, the only place he longed to be noticed was at that food truck, under the harsh glow of fluorescent bulbs and the sound of sizzling pans, where Maya's laughter rang louder than the music, where her hair, always pulled into a messy bun with strands falling across her face, seemed more beautiful than any magazine cover, and where he stood in line, week after week, heart pounding like a drum he could never quiet. For 3 years he carried this quiet devotion, showing up faithfully, watching her hand a plate to a businessman in a suit, a mother with 3 children tugging at her dress, a college kid on a skateboard, all of them receiving the same warmth, the same easy smile, and Ethan telling himself over and over that maybe one day, if he just kept coming back, she would notice him, that maybe one day she would hear the way his voice trembled when he said thank you, that maybe one day she would lean over the counter, see him not as just another customer but as the man who had waited, patiently, silently, endlessly, for her to look back. But Friday after Friday slipped away, each one a small heartbreak disguised as routine, and Ethan told himself it was enough just to see her, to hear her laugh, to catch the glow of her eyes as she talked to her coworkers, until something inside him, some growing ache that had been quietly waiting, told him that enough was enough, that time was moving too quickly, that the years were passing in a blur of tacos and lemonade, and if he didn't say something now, he might never say it at all. So on a warm Friday night when the market was more crowded than usual, when the air was alive with the sound of guitars and chatter and the clinking of glasses, Ethan found himself at the back of the line, rehearsing words he had whispered into the mirror so many times he had forgotten what silence felt like, words that seemed too heavy to carry any longer, words that belonged not to the shy man he had always been, but to the man he desperately wanted to become. And as he inched forward in the line, he watched Maya move with effortless grace, balancing plates, calling out orders, her voice bright and sure even over the chaos, and for the first time, he didn't just see her as a dream he could never touch, but as a woman who had unknowingly held his heart captive for years, a woman who had given him countless small moments of joy without ever realizing it. The line moved too fast, his chest tightened with each step, and suddenly he was at the counter, face to face with her, and there it was again, that same easy smile, that same familiar greeting, 2 chicken tacos and 1 lemonade, right? As if she knew him only for his order, and Ethan, his hands trembling, his heart loud enough he was sure she could hear it, leaned just slightly closer, his voice lower than he expected, steady but filled with years of quiet longing, and whispered, I waited years for this. And in that instant the world seemed to still, the music fading, the chatter blurring, the smell of spices forgotten, because for the very first time, Maya stopped, her pen frozen midair, her eyes lifting slowly, meeting his, really seeing him, and in her silence was the spark of something neither of them could name, a beginning born out of years of waiting, a fragile moment that felt too big to fit inside the tiny space of a food truck, and Ethan knew, whether her response was a smile, confusion, or something else entirely, nothing about his Fridays or his life would ever be the same again.